So again, we've laid out very specifically what we have to do now for our proof in very clear logical goals. So again, we are trying to differentiate sensorality with a C from sensorality with an S, both of them logically pairing to the concept of filtration, right? And anytime you're trying to not produce a tautology or tautological definition, right? You want to differentiate so you don't use the words with the same letters or the same syllability. The more differentiation you can get, the more poignant. But again, filtration doesn't use, right? What is sensorality? Well, it's censorship. You still use the same form of the word, so you have to differentiate the form of the word. But you have filtration, and so sensorality with a S is any sort of filtration done by a conscious choice, and sensorality with a C, any sort of filtration or censorship by physical law, just again, electromagnetic symbol, a logic gate, a mechanical gate, a transistor, those are sensors with a C. But we're going to make some more poignant differentiations and establishments there. The first one being sensorality cannot be paradoxical, right? I just said earlier that I don't think paradoxes exist. Well, paradoxes are a function of, or a facet or not a facet of language, right? The rock is not talking to the table over there. And so sensorality with a C does not have the capacity to be paradoxical. It can't form contradiction. Whatever the laws of physics are, whether we are articulating them correctly or not, they're going to play out in time. So I just have, is this statement, paradox is paradoxical. Paradox, contradiction, is contradiction. Goal. Contradictory. So contradiction is contradictory. So I think there are no paradoxes because paradox is paradoxical. So I think that logically plays out. But and conversely, or not conversely, but logically consistently, not making sense doesn't make sense. And so I think that's redundancy, and then it really gets back to the empirical value function, right? In language, so I don't say a lot, but some languages don't even have the word no. So you're always affirming something. You're always saying existence, table, tableless. There's a table there. There is no table. Look at I know. Je ne sais pas en français. I do not know. I know not. And so it's like you assert something's existence, and then you negate that existence, whether it's with the word no, not, some sort of prefix like un or de. And so there's always just another facet that we've discussed, some sort of assertion of existence and then negation. And if you do that negation, whether you do it with a prefix, whether you do that with the word no or not, whether you start forming these double negatives that are hard to logically follow, again, that's when you're messing up the logic. You're trying to say something you don't know. You have some sort of intuition. You're trying to get it out there and you just mess it up a little bit. But the empirical value function is if you use negation, any form of that negation 2 times, it's like -1 times -1, 2 negative numbers, you get a positive. So iterating some sort of negation an even amount of times always gives you a positive logical connotation or result. And iterating negation an odd amount of times, 1, 3, 5, 7, so on, gives you the negated form of whatever you said. And so, right, you go, I'm not going to the store. I'm not going to the store. I'm not going to the store. And so, once again, the fundamental stability of 2 presents itself, and 3 changes the meaning, produces entropy, makes a change. But I came across a logical limit. So what is a logical limit? It is the limit of eventuality is inevitability. I'll think about it, right? If something is eventual, it is inevitable. So if something is going to happen, or if something is eventually going to happen, it is inevitable going to happen. And so the limit, literally when that eventuality stops, is inevitability. And so, again, just another showing logical containment of one idea within another. If it's eventually going to happen, it is inevitable. But getting to another fun aspect is romance and sex. what is the relationship of romance and sex? Literally the physical act of sexual intercourse, and then the concept of romance, right? Who do you want to date? Who do you want to marry? Who do you want to build a family with? Right? So it's obviously some sort of mixture of initial physical attraction and then some sort of unification or synergetic coming together of your maturity levels. That's why when you're younger in puberty, you're going all after all the hot and attractive people. And then when you're older, you still want to be with the hot and attractive people. But what hot and attractive is a lot more direct towards maturity, towards understanding, to listening to what people call soft skills, or just understanding yourself, less being an angsty teenager or young 20-something. But what is the relationship? Because obviously, now like on a physical given night out where you go and have a nice fun adult time, right? Like the people say conversation's the best foreplay, right? So you're really stimulating their mind. You're making them think, and so that is definitely an aphrodisiac. And people will say it is the best foreplay. Once again, I've heard this thing called sex is real. I wouldn't know, but again, another fundamental adding of why sex sexy, right? Nobody would really say sexy is kind of like but it's another pairing, a dichotomistic pair that you've used all the time, and you might not have seen, sexy as literally the literal extension of the word sex with the sound E. But like I said, when do you have sex? Again, some, feeling safe, feeling attracted to them, and it's more interesting because obviously if it's just a physical thing, everybody knows that. But towards the maturity mending or meshing, coming together type of thing. And in marriage, marriage means nothing to me besides just mutual respect. But to me, that should be with any relationship off the get-go. And I mean any relationship, not just romantic ones. But the like when they have a marriage ceremony and they say, you come together as one. That's in sort of like a religious ceremonial context, but you literally become one. Like that's a real fucking thing. And so it's when you, again, after you've been together for a while, so though the honeymoon phase is worn off, but you see a future together and you see each other grow and build together, and so you've developed attachment to that person, and so attraction becomes much more to the values and to the morals and to the way of life as opposed to the physicality. Why are humans carbon-based? Again, is that any something specifically unique? My intuition is heavily no, because I know of personally other life forms that are not carbon-based. But, again, just a question to pose. It came up in my derivation, but I don't really put much thought into that. We talked about the conundrum of the 100% and just what is base and range and all of that stuff again. Rhythmic motion is in time, another cultural evident thing of this converging to language as well as other people's intuition realizing these things and playing with these ideas. Is the movie In Time. I think I might have already referenced this again previous in one of these videos. But this series has been going on over 5 years, 6 years now. And I reviewed none of these things before doing them. But it's a movie title and intuition because of the minimalistic expressions converging. Timing is literally in time. Like literally the word in is in timing. And so the title of that movie, the concept of what it is, where the characters live longer. If you haven't watched the movie, go watch it. I've reviewed it as well on this channel. But they just have timestamps instead of money, and it's their currency. So it's a very cool concept to play around with, very simple. I like the movie. A lot of people say it's not good. People get way too butthurt about movies. I just like to see something that keeps me entertained for an hour and a half to 2 hours. What is the physical limit of syllability, right? So again, very clear, we have dimensions stabilized and created in the form and space created from mass. No one can deny that. Your object, this notebook, my body, this pen has mass. And the types of sounds our phonetic sound is limited. We've already known that in linguistics for a while, or forever. That's a simple one. But our phonetic output is limited by our physical structure. And so there's a limit to syllability, literally what sounds we can make. And so just some examples. Again, I'm a native English speaker, so most of the English words are easier for me than a foreign language, but there's some interesting ones, like even like, I don't like my pronunciation of the word irony. I get like a Toledo kind of accent in there sometimes, but irony kind of brings out an accent for me. And like Cyrillic, when you have ya, ya, ya for like here, or not here, where, ya, right? So it's like, right, if you start with ya, 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 if you really try to get that D, the D, the L, and then go into the ya, it's kind of again, just kind of funky. And after, I'm feeling like I'm pretty, you'll see my derivations science club team that I mail this stuff to. I'm getting probably, I would say, 90% confident in articulating in Cyrillic, which language it's coming out in, or if it's just a mix mash of a bunch of them, I'm not sure. But I feel confident deriving in Cyrillic. Now it's simple, but again, all of these words are simple. Like there's no complexity to any of this. It's the same mechanical process for everything. But again, that d, ya, for where is kind of hard, as well as the gamma de, g'day, gamma de, so g'day. And again, so now it's like I switch into thinking in Cyrillic, and then my semantic understanding is so low that it's like I even forget what these words are. It's like I think it's vosem is here. I think vosem is here. No, is that 8? Sem vosem. Yeah, vosem is 8. But see, it's like I said, my semantic is shit. But I don't. That's the craziest thing. I don't need the semantics. I don't even need to know what the words are. But if I can understand the sounds and know the shapes of the letters that represent that, I can build them like Legos. And so I actually like deriving in Cyrillic, not just Russian, more so than English, because the Latin alphabet in the English language is easy. Again, I've already done the highest level thing you could do before anyone knew that you could do it. So it's like I'm sitting here giving you the direct instructions on what to do, and I'm sure it'll be a while before anybody really makes... To do another axiomatic proof to the level I do it, I don't know, dude. You have to have I don't know. It could be tomorrow. It could be never. I don't know. But those two words, just again in the pronunciation, is that one syllable, 2 syllables, and why again are those sounds specifically? Again, it's not exclusive to those sounds, but what sounds and why is it hard to transition to? But in a lot of like spoken Russian or in songs in Russian, they'll skip a bunch of syllables, and so it's just like what the fuck. But also in like the Scandinavian, like I would say Bjork, but the BJORK, BJ, nice. But like, how do you? Again, that's another one with the represented by the Roman alphabet, but the B sound B, and then Bjork, York, Bjork. So obviously that's not the pronunciation, but again, you get the point. Temperature of a substance does not change during a phase change. Temperature is an emergent property. Again, I just write down the thoughts that come to that I have intuition behind. Some other dichotomistic pairs that you've probably seen or used a bunch and not even made the connection that they're related, right? I bet you have not realized that adolescence is youth, right? Youth and you. It's just, youth is you with a th at the end of it. Again, two very distinct words, again, obviously directly logically related, but I bet you have not thought that you plus th was youth. In the same way, it was a big shocker to me. I won't even say shocker, because like ontological shock, well, I guess we can, because that's why they say it, but ontological shock, something that I was not expecting. Like a shock, you get shocked by something unexpected. But I call it ontological surprise, right? To me, I see mathematics, or what I'm doing in derivation, it's just like, again, we know solutions are out there. I know, and I know I've proven that. So even if you don't understand the proof, it's like there's stuff out there, infinite axioms you can prove, infinite relationships you can draw. And I'm the one doing this, and it still jumped out to me that an and any are the same form of word. Any is literally the generalization of an, right? An orange. I have an orange, right? I have any orange. right? It's indiscriminate. It generalizes. And then when I first saw that, I was like, what the fuck? I'm retarded. But I like ontological surprise instead of ontological shock. And so we discussed the relationship of efficacy and efficiency. I really like, again, we're clearly using the words of, the operative words of the axioms. So we've got to be getting close. But I misspoke. Again, so, like I said, I can misspeak. I could just flat out not know something. I can get up things straight up wrong. But I said logic synthesizes truth. But as we discussed in the beginning of this episode, truth is to existence. What is true doesn't necessarily have to be known. Right? We have unknown unknowns, known knowns, known unknowns. And, you can subset it below that. Just, I know you know, he knows that you know that I know that he knows. So on and so forth. But there's no genuine embeddings past 2, again, because of the fundamental stability of 2. But logic doesn't synthesize truth. Truth exists, and logic uses the basis of truth to synthesize new outcomes or new results or new decisions or new choices. And so truth is to existence, logic is to synthesizing of those independent truths, of those facts. So factuality is true, but I just have truth is, logic deduces. And another just historical example that I covered, but I'm reiterating, I think, therefore I am. I don't know if that was Shakespeare or whoever, but whoever the dude was in like the 1600s or 1700s or whatever. But again, that's just just snap out of philosophy mode. Just look at the words. What do they mean? I think. I'm processing thoughts. Awesome. Therefore I am. I mean, how can you have the thoughts if you're not existing before that? So I am, therefore I can think. If you can't be a being, you can't have a thought process. You can't have sensorality with an S without sensorality with a C. You can't have a person, me, Brad, without electrons. But another elicitation and elucidation of this phenomenon is interesting with the Jeopardy show. Another thing, I'm pretty sure I've used all of these examples, but I'm literally extending the logic and rehashing. And to me, it's all completely consistent. To you, the viewer, I doubt you're watching part 92. Again, all of this stuff is, I'm me. So it's like all of the different things I do is all continuous. So it's like, I'm thinking of this little factoid over here from part 16 that was happened 4.5 years ago on Tuesday. And you're like, dude, what's the answer, bro? If you're even interested enough to be watching this video. But the Jeopardy show, the way they answer in question form. They'll say, what is? They'll be posed, this person did such and such in this year, and his name was remembered by relation to this. So you get a statement, and you respond with the question. So fundamentally, questions elucidate or elicit response. And so asking the correct question will elicit the word form that connects sensorality to speciality. And so we're effectively trying to find the question that will elucidate or elicit. Right? Elicit to bring forth, elucidate to bring to light this differentiation between sensorality with a C and with an S, axiomatizing one of the two, almost certainly. Yet something will happen that will be really cool. But again, it's just like, because I'm doing derivation while I'm trying to prepare a lecture, and all of my focus is on the core research. Because I can make jumps so much faster without having to explain them, but it is still a fundamental part of being able to articulate concisely and correctly what you understand intuitively. But we're trying to basically derive the right question to elicit the right answer, and the elicitation of that word will axiomatize the sensorality. But the question asked, and then, so how do you reduce that? Because again, like I said, I would do reduced proofs, where it goes, I can show the linguistics, literally the letters going to basically, again, when you say, I can't think of a good example right now, but I've already articulated that idea well, but I will show the reduction of the entire logical structure and the entire linguistical structure. And basically bring it down to basically what's a rhetorical question. The question will answer itself, and then the iteration of the letters will be directly on your screen. And the fact is that we've probably, again, because we're circling the drain in that sense. And so it's almost certain, 99.999% sure we've already used the words. We're just getting down to the specific forms that bring out the axiomatization or axiomatization. But the question asked will cancel out itself in the same way terms cancel out in a mathematical equation. So logical terminology will literally cancel out. What you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other. And in linguistics, is the equation sign. The more general form of what the equation sign represents. But I have a conjecture. Now I think to get to that point of stabilizing the axiom, I think we can say attraction is objective. I really do think, no, there's no such thing as a paradox, and I think we can objectively, not quantify, but qualify, and qualify being a more poignant, comprehensive description of attraction. What makes somebody attracted to somebody, whether that attraction is sexual, which is obviously a huge part of being a human being, but or just, what makes you attracted to somebody's intellect, or as a business partner, or as a friend, or as, what makes somebody interesting to you for your this aspect of your life, or for a certain aspect of your life. And so, it seems like a simple thing, but again, speciality, every human being understands what it's like to go through puberty. Well, all the ones that didn't die, but they know what it's like to live a life. A lot of people think about their jobs and their relationships. No one really gives a fuck about proving an axiom. I don't even give a fuck about proving an axiom, I just can. But the point is this again, to generalize it, we have to bring it up. It has to make sense to the entire species at the same time, like that. And so attraction is objective. Speciality, you want to differentiate to attract a mate. Sensorality is attraction. And so that's logically. Now linguistically, we flip it, right? Because a lot of the dichotomistic pairs, and again, the same way, if you want to derive the correct pronunciation, you start with the last syllable and you work your way to the first. Logically, you start with the last word and you work your way to the first. And so a lot of the dichotomistic pairs I have are stuff like fact, fun. And if you flip that, it's fun, fact. And right, so you get to that a little, or you're like, wait a second, I've heard the term fun fact before, and it probably strikes you as fundamental ontology, like a physical feeling. You're like, hey, it brings something in your brain, or it's like a logic piece or block moving into place. And so you've heard the term fun fact, but we've covered alliteration. So right it's not a fundamental dichotomistic pair, right? You can break those up again into literally two separate words, but you can use fun in a different context than fact. But fun fact it's a little expression that a lot of people have used, and it's just a condensation to that alliteration that we've talked about before. But maturity stabilizes, right? You get more mature, your attraction obviously still includes physicality, but it's more comprehensive to emotionality, to morals, to values, to way of lives, to what you want out of your existence. Morality stabilizes, limiting insecurity. Limiting insecurity limits speciality, your extreme desire to be super different. It's like you go out on your first date and you're all dressed up, looking nice, and when you've been married for 15 years, it's like, you wear gym shorts and your beer belly hangs over your belt. It's like whatever. But, and the speciality, again, is already proven. But speciality unifies into sensorality. And so I'm now, in that sentence right there, is intuiting that sensorality, again, is more comprehensive than speciality. Speciality, the only word you need to think of when you hear that word now is differentiation. And then sensorality, some sort of consolidation, condensing, again, filtration, sentient filtration, but condensing as well. And so again, we have to get to the core idea of what really makes sensorality, and then articulate it with its definition. But attraction, sensation, those are physical feelings. Sensorality sexualizes. So again, now we're just writing out these fundamental alliterations. And so when I say derive, I'm a brute force logician that derives axioms. I literally have to think through all of the context in which these words would use to derive their word forms. And that's the savant synesthesia aspect, where it's just, I don't fucking know. I was just born this way, and it is more trivial and happens more with more rapidity than me breathing or having to think about it at all. All of this is trivial to me. And whenever my work gets acknowledged, which I, again, like I said, I have no expectation that will happen in my lifetime, but you'll see it happen over email. I literally just email people, this like texting off my cell phone. But again, that might be like a ooh, ah, but it's not, right? The intuitive clicking moment's what really matters. And then the articulation, it flows out of you as easy as can be. But sensuality sexualizes, sensuality with an S, again, clearly sensuality with a C. A rock does not have genitalia or sexual structure. But obviously word order matters. And just to finish off, so now we can provide a set of infinite size to reduce. It doesn't give us our final result, but it gives us a nice poignant result. So before we get to that, to finish up, truth is a form of trucity, right? And so you probably haven't related truce, the word truce, like we're going to have a truce, we're going to stop fighting, to the word true, but it is in the same word family, truce. So trucity, truce, true, truth. And so, and if we're again, I'm jumping back and forth between quite a big things, mostly focused on logic, but you'll get to, is it a true or false statement? So true or false doesn't say good or bad or yes or no, it just says, is it valid or invalid? As opposed to if you use yes, you've accepted something. And then if you use no, you've rejected something. And then you've used good or bad, you've used moral judgment, you've used emotionality, you've used moral assessment to say if that's not only true, but if it's good. And vice versa with bad and evil. But the limiting section of the proof is what can we say about sensuality with a C? Sensuality is anything referencing sentience ending linguistically with the suffix less, L-E-S-S. Some examples, obviously not comprehensive. Merciless, right? The rock is merciless to me. If a rock falls off a mountain and falls on me, it's not going to show me any mercy. It's not going to care. It's moralless. That rock that fell on me, my table that's sitting next to me, it has no morals. I'm not afraid of it. Why? Because it's an inanimate object. Of course it's moralless. Lifeless. Yep, everything that's not alive is lifeless. Feelingless, right? Everything that can't feel is feelingless. And so you might say it's logically obvious, but that's the whole point, is I'm proving that paradoxes don't exist. You just don't know what you're talking about. And me too, I'm talking about the general you, not like you stupid fuck who denied all of science. But you stupid fuck who denied all of science, you are still out there. But the point being, to sensuality with a C, anything that references sentience in the base word, life, mercy, moral, again, there's literally infinite examples. And then you have negation, it says, it directly asserts or implies sentience, and then says lists. It has no sentience. It has no ability to choose or to live or do any characteristic of something that has life does. And so we can limit what is sensuality with a C. It is all things that reference sentience linguistically, all of the words that have lists at the end that specifically reference sentience. So that is a big reduction in what sensuality could be, but it is a form of negation. And again, we've just reiterated in this episode what the empirical value function does in terms of assessing negation, the use of any sort of negation in even and odd intervals. So that is it for tonight. Again, I got a bunch of raw data. Not sure how many episodes this will edit into, but really, again, just trying to solidify the definition of sensuality. Most likely going to be with an S, because again, we know sensuality with an S sensuality with an S is more comprehensive than sensuality with a C. And what exactly is the relationship of sensuality with an S to sensuality or speciality? And so that is where we are at, working through all of the different logical things this time, and just a little bit of a couple physics references, but keep moving forward and waiting for our eventual definition to become inevitable, to get over that point and to hopefully maybe live a day of my life. No expectation to, but thank you for watching, and I will see you on whatever comes next.